Her own family stole her inheritance, until a detective revealed their true face in court. The stale, almost metallic tang of aged paper and polished wood hung heavy in the high-ceilinged courtroom, a scent that spoke of countless battles fought and forgotten within these very walls. Sunlight, fractured and pale, struggled to penetrate the tall, arched windows, casting long, dusty fingers across the rows of plush, unoccupied seats. A low hum of hushed whispers, like a distant swarm of bees, filled the space, emanating from the elegantly dressed spectators who filled the front rows, faces that spoke of inherited wealth and practiced indifference. It was a tableau Elara had observed many times, though never from this vantage point. In the very first row, a man sat with an air of cold confidence, his tailored suit a testament to effortless affluence. This was Caspian Thorne, her great-nephew, the man once entrusted with managing the vast fortune of Elara Vance. His posture was too relaxed, his smile too easy, a predator at ease with the scent of prey. Beside him, Isolde, his wife, presented a polished mask of unwavering faith in her husband, her gaze occasionally drifting, briefly, to Elara's form in the back, then recoiling with a subtle yet unmistakable flicker of disdain. At the podium, squarely facing the judge, stood Bay Maxwell, Elara's longtime attorney. He moved with a quiet efficiency, shuffling stacks of documents, a knowing, almost mischievous glint in his eyes whenever his gaze briefly met Caspian's. To Elara, watching him, a profound sense of anticipation stirred within her. She knew the precise choreography of the day, every pause, every word. Elara herself, cloaked in the guise of Agnes Finch, occupied a seat in the back row, huddled in a worn, shapeless gray cardigan, her hands clasped tremulously in her lap. Her hair, usually a meticulously styled silver cascade, was now a wispy, disheveled white bun, escaping in wisps around her face. Her spectacles, thick and slightly askew, did little to hide the keen intelligence and deep weariness that lay beneath her eyes. No one in the room saw anything beyond the frail, elderly woman, perhaps a little bewildered, certainly insignificant. They dismissed her as a simple, aged, somewhat confused relative, one of the family's greater embarrassments, a forgotten twinge of conscience. The air around her seemed to carry the faint scent of mothballs and stale lavender, a carefully constructed illusion of obsolescence. Caspian, ever impatient, met Bay Maxwell's lingering silence with a sneer of contempt. "Mr. Maxwell," he called out, his voice dripping with mock concern, "how much longer must we wait for this latest update on our dear great-aunt Elara's health? You understand, these familial matters are of vital importance to us, especially given her declining mental faculties." His words were a carefully placed barb, designed to wound and belittle. Isolde, beside him, echoed his sentiments with a soft, purring murmur of agreement, her eyes briefly lingering on Elara's stooped, elderly frame before drawing back with overt revulsion. "It's time to bring this to an end," Isolde added, her voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying a palpable sense of impatience, as if Elara's very presence contaminated the air. "This situation is quite exhausting, both for her and for the family's reputation." A thin, ironic smile played on Elara's lips, unseen by those who mattered. Oh, how profoundly mistaken they were. Their minds, she knew, were so clouded by their own arrogance, so steeped in their conviction of superiority, that they could not possibly grasp the shocking truth poised to unravel before them. From her vantage point, a detached observer, Elara perceived the thoughts of everyone in the room. She was a silent god, pulling the strings, seeing the impending tempest. Caspian and Isolde, in their smug confidence, believed their prey was cornered, their victory assured. But Elara knew better. She was the architect of this elaborate play, patiently awaiting her moment of retribution, every second of this agonizing wait making the cold truth that would soon slap them in the face all the more devastating. The sweet bitterness of anticipation was a physical sensation, tightening her chest. Bay Maxwell finally cleared his throat, the sound resonating through the hushed hall. "Mr. Thorne, Miss Thorne," he began, weighing each word carefully. "And for all esteemed family members present here today. We are here to make an important announcement regarding Ms. Elara Vance's health and the future of her financial affairs." A brief, dramatic pause hung in the air, allowing the tension to coil tighter. Bay Maxwell's gaze flickered, a nearly imperceptible glint in his eyes, towards where Elara sat. In that breath-held moment, Elara's voice, surprisingly strong and clear, rose from the depths of the room. The voice they had presumed to be tremulous was now steel-hard, sharp as a honed blade. Enough, her voice resonated, each syllable hanging in the air, cutting through the silence. For a single, suspended moment, all whispers ceased. Caspian and Isolde whirled around, a flicker of confusion momentarily clouding their faces. The game is over. Elara rose slowly from her seat, her spine straightening, her shoulders shedding the weight of the disguise that had once slumped them. The gray cardigan and disheveled hair remained, yet her posture, her gaze, had utterly transformed. The frail, bewildered Agnes was gone, replaced by the resolute, vengeful Elara Vance. The ironic smile on her face widened further, watching as the condescension on Caspian and Isolde's faces slowly, agonizingly, morphed into a mask of shock and dawning horror. Elara knew, with a satisfaction that vibrated through her very bones, that the moment had arrived. The game of life, which they had always presumed to be someone else's, was, in fact, Elara's own masterpiece, meticulously crafted and now, finally, unveiled. Elara Vance, at 72, had been a pioneer in technology, a woman of profound vision who had chosen a life of relative reclusion. Her early investments in artificial intelligence and automation had yielded an immense fortune, but to her, money was never an end in itself, it was a powerful tool. She valued integrity, innovation, and genuine human connection above all else. A substantial portion of her wealth had been channeled into a comprehensive philanthropic foundation, dedicated to supporting groundbreaking research for human advancement and uplifting disadvantaged communities. But as the years wore on, she had grown deeply disillusioned by the materialism and avarice of her extended family, a disappointment that gnawed at her quiet moments. Her own youth had been forged in simplicity and honesty. She had learned to stand on her own feet, to confront and overcome challenges with grit and determination. When she ventured into the burgeoning world of technology, she never abandoned these core principles. She believed that artificial intelligence was not merely a means to accumulate wealth, but a force capable of amplifying humanity's potential for good. Her foundation had been built upon this unwavering belief, to foster true scientific progress and societal well-being. Yet, the world around her, particularly her own flesh and blood, had strayed far from these ideals. Caspian Thorne, her great-nephew, the grandson of her own uncle, had once appeared bright and promising in his youth. Elara, seeing potential she desperately hoped was genuine, had entrusted him with a significant role in the Foundation's management, even a portion of her personal affairs. This decision, she now realized, had been a test. She had wished to observe how her potential heirs would not only manage her wealth but also how they would leverage it for the betterment of society, how they would honor the legacy she sought to build. But Caspian and his wife, Isolde, had done little more than systematically abuse her trust, their actions a slow, corrosive poison. Over the years, Elara had felt an increasing distance from her family. What began as seemingly kind visits gradually devolved into forced formalities. Conversations, rather than genuine inquiries about her well-being, revolved incessantly around financial expectations and extravagant expenditures. Christmas dinners, once joyous gatherings, became whispered negotiations about the size of her latest donation to the Foundation or the destination of their next luxurious vacation. Elara had ceased to be a beloved matriarch in their eyes. She had become a mere ATM, a source of endless funds. Caspian and Isolde, in particular, had begun to voice their concerns about Elara's mental acuity at every available opportunity, a clear prelude to their calculated scheme to seize control of her fortune. In their eyes, Elara was not just an aging, senile aunt, but an obstacle, one that needed to be removed as quickly and discreetly as possible. The turning point, the moment of undeniable clarity, arrived when Elara noticed a series of small, inexplicable discrepancies within the Foundation's funds. Initially, she dismissed them as mere accounting errors, the inevitable quirks of a large, complex organization. But a deeper, more meticulous investigation revealed a systemic pattern. These deficits, she discovered with a sinking heart, correlated strangely and precisely with Caspian and Isolde's increasingly lavish personal expenses. This was not merely a financial violation, it was a profound betrayal of Elara's life's work, her very vision for a better world. Human greed had always saddened her, but she had never imagined her own family could descend to such depths. This deep disillusionment ignited a dormant detective within Elara. She needed to understand her family's true character, their unvarnished loyalty, with absolute certainty. She had to know if they were truly devoted to her, or if their presence was merely a cynical pursuit of her wealth. The most effective way to conduct this test, she concluded, was through disguise. If she remained Elara Vance, rich and powerful, their masks would never fall. But if she became vulnerable, seemingly helpless and in need, then their true faces, unburdened by pretense, would inevitably emerge. The plan was meticulously crafted, executed with the precision of a master chess player. Elara decided to create a character that would not raise immediate suspicion within her family, yet would undeniably test their conscience: Agnes Finch, a seemingly frail, somewhat bewildered, and impoverished distant cousin. Agnes would claim to have lived far away from the family, now fallen on hard times and desperately seeking refuge. Elara completely transformed her appearance: cheap, ill-fitting clothes that swallowed her frame, worn-out shoes that scuffed the polished floors. She pulled her hair into a simple, messy bun and adopted a makeup-free, sallow complexion. She even subtly altered her voice, making it slightly higher-pitched, slowing her speech, and occasionally feigning a muddle of words. Agnes's backstory was one of a long-lost relative, a woman struggling to survive, desperate for a lifeline. She enlisted Bay Maxwell, a former attorney who had once served Elara Vance, into her intricate plot. Bay Maxwell, one of the few who truly believed in Elara's vision and integrity, understood the critical importance of this secret mission. He was the only one she trusted implicitly with her true identity, a man who saw beyond the fortune to the woman of principle. Elara stepped into her new identity as if entering a complex film set, embracing the role with a profound sense of purpose. She had observed the meticulousness with which actors prepared for their roles, and she applied that same dedication to Agnes. She studied the gait of older, more vulnerable women, practiced the slight tremor in her hands, even experimented with different perfumes to ensure Agnes smelled of something faint and forgotten. Elara knew that this radical decision was not merely an act of personal vengeance born from disappointment, it was a profound defense of ethical values and human dignity. It was a searing exposé of how wealth could corrupt the human spirit, and Elara, as the lead actor in this unfolding drama, was utterly determined to reveal everyone's true face, no matter how ugly. Agnes Finch, a vision of quiet desperation, arrived at Caspian and Isolde's opulent mansion on a wet, dreary afternoon. The grand wrought iron gates, usually so imposing, seemed to mock her small, worn suitcase and the old, crumpled coat draped over her shoulders. Her eyes held the deep-seated weariness of a long journey, her body carrying its physical toll. The cold, unfeeling grandeur of the mansion, with its perfectly manicured lawns and towering facade, seemed to shrink her further. Caspian, answering the door himself, stood before the elderly woman, a mixture of surprise and mild distaste on his perfectly sculpted face. "Agnes Finch," he questioned, his voice laced with suspicion, as if recalling a dusty, forgotten ledger. "I thought you were never spoken of." His eyes, usually so sharp, now scanned her with an almost clinical detachment, trying to categorize her. Elara, as Agnes, offered a tremulous smile, a performance honed to perfection. "Ah, dear Caspian, I am a distant relative. My grandfather and your great-grandfather were cousins. I've fallen on hard times, you see. I came hoping the bonds of kinship were still strong." Isolde appeared behind her husband, her face a mask of bored indifference. Her eyes, sharp and judgmental, swept over Agnes's humble appearance from head to toe, lingering on the threadbare fabric of her coat, brimming with undisguised contempt. "Well, come in then," Isolde said, her voice dripping with reluctance, barely masking her annoyance. "But you cannot stay long. Our home is quite full." The implication was clear: Agnes was an inconvenience, an unwanted intrusion. Agnes's first days in the mansion laid bare the cruel realities hidden beneath a thin veneer of polite hospitality. She was not offered one of the elegant guest suites, typically reserved for important visitors. Instead, she was relegated to a small, damp servant's room in the most remote, least used wing of the sprawling estate. It was windowless, save for a small, high vent that offered no view, and the wallpaper peeled in curling strips, revealing the cracked plaster beneath. A persistent chill permeated the air, despite the mansion's expensive heating system. Caspian, with a practiced air of magnanimity, often presented Agnes with leftovers from the previous evening's dinner, or the cheapest, least nourishing of foods. "Agnes, you know, everything is so expensive these days," Caspian would remark, his tone tinged with false sympathy, as he gestured towards the cold, congealed pasta placed before Agnes. "Even the Charity Foundation is tightening its belt. I suppose you understand that better than anyone." Elara, internally, wanted to burst into laughter. Her own foundation, her own money, now presented to her as charity. The irony was a bitter, yet satisfying, taste on her tongue. Each meager meal, each condescending remark, fueled her resolve. One evening, a soft knock came at Agnes's door. When she opened it, she saw Bronwyn Sterling, the chief archivist of Elara's foundation, standing there. Bronwyn was a quiet, gentle woman, her modest clothes always neat, her expression thoughtful. In her hands, she held a warm, steaming mug of tea and a small sandwich, wrapped in a napkin. A deep, genuine compassion glowed in her eyes. "Miss Agnes," Bronwyn said softly, her voice a balm in the cold house, "I haven't seen you at the dinner table. Perhaps this will warm you a little. There's also a small sandwich left over from dinner." Agnes accepted the mug with a feigned, hesitant surprise. "Oh, Bronwyn, you are too kind. I was quite hungry, but I felt uninvited." Bronwyn offered a small, knowing smile. "Everyone deserves to eat here. I was just coming from the dining room, getting something for myself." "Sometimes," she whispered, her voice tinged with a quiet sadness, "I feel that some things here aren't quite fair." Elara caught the subtle hint of censure in Bronwyn's words. Bronwyn, a woman who likely struggled to make ends meet on her modest salary, still possessed the generosity to help others. This small gesture, a simple cup of tea, spoke volumes, echoing louder than all of Caspian and Isolde's grand pronouncements. It was a flicker of humanity in a house of cold calculation. Days stretched into weeks. Caspian and Isolde's demeaning behavior continued to escalate, their audacity growing with each passing day. They spoke openly of Elara's senility in Agnes's presence, barely bothering to lower their voices. "I think our dear Aunt Elara is quite past managing her money now," Caspian would declare at dinner, glancing pointedly at Agnes as if she were a prop in their play. "Soon we'll have to declare her legally incompetent. It will be for the best to take over the foundation, to save her legacy." Isolde would nod in agreement, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "And to stop all those ridiculous investments. Artificial intelligence? No one needs that. Real estate and luxury consumption, that's where the future lies." Agnes, listening to their shameless pronouncements, felt the anger within her solidify into an icy, unshakable determination. Observing these two greedy vipers plunder her own legacy was a sickening, infuriating experience. One morning, Agnes detected a strange taste in her coffee. It was faintly bitter, with a sharp, chemical undertone. After a few sips, she felt a slight dizziness, a subtle clouding of her mind. A short while later, Caspian gifted Agnes with a new medication. "Aunt Agnes, you look a bit tired. This is a vitamin supplement that will help you. I've been using it for a long time." Elara took the medicine, a small vial of clear liquid, but she never ingested it. Instead, she carefully secreted it away, knowing it would be analyzed later in her private laboratory. The narrator knew the true, chilling depths of Caspian and Isolde's intentions. They desired Agnes to die of natural causes, a convenient disappearance that would hasten their claim to Elara Vance's vast inheritance. This was not merely greed, it was attempted murder, a cold, calculated act. One afternoon, Agnes was in the library, in her disguise, ostensibly poring over old Foundation records, her feigned confusion a thin veil over her sharp intellect. Bronwyn approached her, carrying 2 steaming cups of tea. "Still reading these old ledgers, Miss Agnes?" she asked gently, her voice a soft murmur. "They must be dreadfully dull." Agnes offered a small, grateful smile. "No, actually, quite fascinating. I was curious about how the Foundation began, Ms. Elara's vision." Bronwyn sighed, a deep, weary sound. "Yes, Ms. Elara was a true visionary. The Foundation used to do wonderful work. But lately," her voice trailed off, laden with unspoken sorrow. "Ever since Mr. Caspian and Ms. Isolde took over, everything has changed. Funds are going to strange places. Several projects were abruptly stopped, but the funds never returned. As an archivist, I've noticed several inconsistencies myself. But I dare not say anything. I'm afraid." In Bronwyn's eyes, Elara saw a complex tapestry of loyalty and fear. Bronwyn was a dedicated employee who truly believed in the Foundation's mission, yet she felt powerless against the rampant corruption. Her integrity shone through, a beacon in the gloom. This conversation cemented Elara's resolve. Bronwyn's quiet courage, her unwavering commitment to goodness despite her own humble struggles, stood in stark contrast to Caspian and Isolde's blinding avarice. Bronwyn was a silent hero, fighting to preserve the Foundation's true spirit. Elara was profoundly grateful to know that such people still existed. This elaborate test had not only exposed her family's insidious betrayal but had also revealed where true goodness resided. The narrator knew that every step of Elara's arduous journey was being watched, for this was not just a story of one woman's revenge, but a testament to doing what was right, to sowing seeds of kindness, and to rewarding those who truly deserved it. Every insult Agnes endured, every deprivation she suffered, had only sharpened Elara's steel will. The moment the masks would fall in the courtroom would be not only a moment of revelation but also a profound act of redemption and justice. The tense anticipation in the courtroom was suddenly shattered as the grand doors swung open. A rising murmur, then the distinct echo of confident footsteps, filled the hall. All eyes swiveled towards the entrance. Entering the room was Bay Maxwell, impeccably dressed in a sharp, dark suit. But this time, he was not alone. Beside him walked a woman of striking elegance. She wore a tailored silk suit of deep emerald green, the fabric shimmering subtly as she moved, her silver hair meticulously styled into a sophisticated chignon. Her face, etched with lines of wisdom, held an expression of unwavering determination. A magnificent emerald necklace, sparkling at her throat, seemed to draw attention to the sharp, intelligent glint in her eyes. Caspian and Isolde stared at this unfamiliar woman, a puzzled frown creasing Caspian's brow, while Isolde's gaze narrowed in wary curiosity. Who was this woman? Why did she exude such an aura of self-assured authority as she entered the hallowed space? The woman proceeded slowly, with measured, deliberate steps, her gaze fixed directly upon Caspian and Isolde. With each step, a palpable weight, an undeniable authority, seemed to settle over the air. It was as if the entire courtroom was swelling with her very presence. In the back row, the seat where Agnes Finch had been huddled was now conspicuously empty. Elara, only minutes before, had been quietly escorted from the room by Bay Maxwell's trusted team, a silent, efficient maneuver unnoticed by the self-absorbed duo in the front. Caspian and Isolde, their attention consumed by the new arrival, had failed to notice the subtle departure of the bold woman. The woman paused before the podium, coming to a halt beside Bay Maxwell. For a fleeting moment, a profound silence descended, thick and expectant. Then, Bay Maxwell offered a slight, knowing smile. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice ringing with a quiet triumph, "I have the distinct honor of presenting to you Ms. Elara Vance." A wave of shock, palpable and immediate, rippled through the courtroom. Whispers erupted into a cacophony of gasps and exclamations. Caspian's face, moments before etched with smug relief, slowly contorted into a mask of utter disbelief and dawning horror. Isolde's lips parted, her eyes wide and unblinking, like saucers. How could this be? The terrifying, impossible truth that Elara Vance was the frail, senile Agnes Finch they had so contemptuously harbored in their own home, struck them with the force of a lightning bolt. They, the cunning predators, had unknowingly sheltered the very key to their downfall beneath their own roof, and had been too blind, too arrogant, to see it. Elara's eyes, sharp and piercing, swept over Caspian and Isolde's stunned, pale faces. "Surprised, my dear nephew?" she inquired, her voice now at full, resonant power, echoing into every corner of the room. "Are you looking for Agnes Finch? She was merely a disguise. A test. And both of you, I regret to say, failed that test spectacularly." Her voice was laced with an icy contempt, each word a direct accusation. Caspian sprang to his feet, his voice trembling, bordering on a desperate shriek. This is impossible. You're senile. This is a trick. Agnes, you're not her." His denial was frantic, a pathetic attempt to cling to a crumbling reality. Elara's smile, now a triumphant, almost predatory curve of her lips, widened. "Oh, dear Caspian. My mind is sharper than you could ever conceive. In fact, it has never been clearer. While you two greedy parasites helped yourselves to my fortune for your wretched purposes, I was watching every single one of your despicable steps." Elara extended a thick file to Bay Maxwell, its contents heavy with the weight of damning evidence. "Mr. Maxwell, if you please, present the evidence." Bay Maxwell, with a solemn, deliberate air, began to read from the documents within the file, detailed ledgers of the millions of dollars Caspian and Isolde had embezzled from the foundation, specific dates and amounts, shell companies used to funnel funds. There were chilling witness statements from the loyal cook and a longtime housemaid, individuals Elara had discreetly placed years ago, recounting their attempts to administer the poisoned vitamins to Agnes. And most damning of all, the crisp, undeniable audio recordings, played for the entire courtroom, revealing their insidious conspiracy to have Elara declared legally incompetent. These recordings, so horrifying in their casual cruelty, had been captured by hidden listening devices Elara had ingeniously planted in Agnes's room. Caspian and Isolde's own voices, raw and unedited, laid bare their ruthless intentions in their relentless pursuit of wealth. A wave of murmurs, a rising tide of disgust, swept through the courtroom. Spectators turned to stare at Caspian and Isolde, their faces etched with revulsion. Caspian's face had turned a mottled purple, a mask of impotent rage and dawning despair. Isolde, meanwhile, had slumped back into her chair, her eyes staring blankly into space, paralyzed by the sheer shock of reality. Elara's voice, clear and unwavering, resonated through the courtroom like a final, unappealable judgment. "You did not merely steal my money. You stole my vision, the very work of my life. And worse, without a single shred of mercy in your hearts, you attempted to poison an old, vulnerable woman. The woman who trusted you." The judge, a stern, imposing figure, brought his gavel down sharply. "Order. Order in the court." Elara turned to face the judge, her gaze unwavering. "Your Honor, we have presented all the evidence necessary for justice to be served in this case. We now respectfully request your judgment." The narrator knew that this moment was the zenith of Elara's patience, her intellect, and her unbreakable will. The masks had fallen, and the ugly truth had been laid bare for all to see. Caspian and Isolde's shock was not merely the fear of being caught, it was a bitter reflection of their own profound stupidity and blind arrogance. They had failed to recognize their greatest adversary, living right under their noses, disguised as the very person they scorned every single day. The courtroom fell into an icy silence as the judge's verdict was delivered, sharp and decisive. Caspian Thorne and Isolde Thorne were found guilty on all counts, embezzlement, fraud, and attempted murder. As they were led away from the courtroom in handcuffs, their faces contorted with a grotesque mixture of shock and utter defeat. The press photographers, once eager for their carefully curated smiles, now flashed their cameras relentlessly, immortalizing their public humiliation. Their social standing, meticulously built on a foundation of deceit, crumbled to dust. Their vast wealth was frozen, their reputations irrevocably ruined. Their opulent mansion, a symbol of their greed, was now in the hands of the state, every gilded corner a silent, damning witness to their avarice and cruelty. Their story, a scandal of epic proportions, splashed across every major newspaper and news channel, became a chilling cautionary tale for the city. Once the epitome of a power couple, they were now the grotesque symbols of moral decay. Elara Vance, her composure unwavering, returned to the mansion after the trial, accompanied by Bay Maxwell. The only person waiting for them inside was Bronwyn Sterling. Bronwyn, upon learning the true identity of the old woman she had shown kindness to, had been utterly shocked, but her astonishment had quickly transformed into a profound, almost reverent respect. Now, she stood before Elara, her hands clasped nervously, waiting quietly. As Elara looked at Bronwyn, a warm, genuine smile touched her lips. "Bronwyn," she said, her voice soft and imbued with deep gratitude. "I have not forgotten the kindness and compassion you showed me when I was Agnes. Despite your own struggles, you offered me a warm cup of tea and a simple sandwich. You acted out of pure goodness, without any thought for your own gain." Bronwyn's eyes welled up with unshed tears. I only did what was right, Miss Agnes. I mean, Miss Elara. I knew how important the foundation was to you." Elara nodded in solemn agreement. "And you, Bronwyn, were the only one who truly understood the foundation's spirit. As you sifted through those records, you discerned Caspian and Isolde's nefarious actions. You fought a silent battle with your conscience, yet you persevered." Elara then turned to Bay Maxwell. "Mr. Maxwell, if you would please explain Bronwyn's new role." Bay Maxwell beamed, his eyes twinkling. "Miss Sterling, Ms. Elara Vance has appointed you as the new CEO of the Vance Foundation. With full authority and responsibility. The task of restoring the Foundation's operations and funds to its original transparent and ethical principles has been entrusted to you. Additionally, from Ms. Elara's personal fortune, a substantial amount will be transferred to you, enough to maintain a comfortable, yet still modest lifestyle, while also providing you with the prosperity you so rightly deserve." Bronwyn's face drained of color. The words seemed to stick in her throat, refusing to form. This is too much. I am merely an archivist." Elara stepped closer and took Bronwyn's hand, her grip gentle but firm. "No, Bronwyn. You are not merely an archivist. You are a conscience. A true hero. And this, my dear, is a reward you have truly earned. I can think of no one better suited to lead the Foundation. You, Bronwyn, genuinely understand my vision, my purpose." Tears began to stream down Bronwyn's face, silent, heartfelt. This was a reward beyond her wildest dreams, a profound validation of her quiet integrity. All her life, she had lived modestly, serving others, believing in the power of good. Now, not only was she given a chance to thrive, but also to uphold everything she believed in. While Caspian and Isolde lost everything, Bronwyn, simply for her innate goodness, had gained the greatest reward of her life. The narrator knew that the universe's justice, though sometimes slow, always finds its mark in the end. The destruction wrought by avarice and the ascension brought by compassion were strikingly displayed within the very walls of this grand mansion. Months unfolded, each one bringing new life to the Vance Foundation. Under Bronwyn Sterling's capable and conscientious management, it had been reborn, a phoenix rising from the ashes of greed. The Foundation, once Caspian and Isolde's personal playground for self-enrichment, now flourished as a powerhouse of philanthropic endeavor, meticulously supporting groundbreaking scientific research and vital community projects, precisely aligned with Elara's original, noble vision. Funds were managed with uncompromising transparency, every single penny accounted for, ensuring that it reached its intended, beneficial destination. Bronwyn, despite her new, immensely powerful position, retained her inherent modesty, yet embraced the enormous responsibilities with unwavering dedication. She did not merely manage money, she breathed life into Elara's spirit of philanthropy, ensuring its enduring legacy. Elara Vance, having seen justice served and her vision reaffirmed, had once again retreated into a life of quiet seclusion, but this time, it was a seclusion filled with a profound sense of peace. Her experience as Agnes Finch had been a crucible, revealing the very worst and the very best aspects of human nature. Her family's betrayal had been a bitter pill to swallow, yet the existence of a soul like Bronwyn had unequivocally restored her faith in humanity's inherent good. In the tranquil, silent rooms of her own mansion, she resumed her work at her computer, delving into new projects, no longer driven by the accumulation of material wealth, but by the enduring legacy she sought to leave behind. Everything she undertook now had a singular, clear purpose: to shape a better future and to genuinely aid those who deserved it most. Elara frequently met with Bronwyn, listening intently to the Foundation's progress. Each report, detailing the positive impact and ethical growth, filled Elara's heart with a deep, quiet sense of contentment. Her legacy was in the right hands, nurtured by integrity. Caspian and Isolde's ruthless ambitions had, ironically, led to their own ruin. They faced their judgments, were convicted, and languished in prison, forced to confront the harsh reality that their lives of opulent luxury were now nothing more than a distant, unattainable memory. Their vast fortunes had been seized, their social standing utterly annihilated. They were paying the heaviest price for their insatiable greed, an unending torment of regret and loss. Elara's story was a profound journey into the depths of human character. It showed, with stark clarity, that just as stars shine brightest in the darkest night, the true faces of people are revealed most vividly in times of great adversity. For some, this revelation meant a descent into the abyss of moral decay and unbridled greed, while for others, it was the shining beacon of compassion, honesty, and unconditional goodness. Elara had witnessed with her own eyes that true worth could never be measured by mere money. It was defined by the courage shown in the face of hardship, by acts of selfless kindness, and by an authentic love for humanity. And most importantly, the narrator knew, an act of good faith, no matter how small, would never go unrewarded. While evil ultimately brought its own destruction, goodness always found its rightful reward, and light, inevitably, always triumphed over darkness. This story is a testament to Elara's intelligence, her patience, and her unwavering belief in justice. On our channel, you can discover many more similar stories that explore the complex facets of human nature: betrayal, revenge, compassion, and hope. These narratives offer the deepest lessons that life teaches us. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our new videos. What are your thoughts on this story? What was the most shocking moment in Elara's plan for you? Have you ever witnessed such a betrayal or an unexpected act of kindness in your own life? What would you have done if you were in Elara's shoes? Leave your comments below. We would love to chat with you.